I've been in the gym. That's why I look like shit. But sorry, I'm distracted. I shouldn't be starting videos like this. Either way, what I have realized is that I actually I sit and do videos with my headset on, but I don't actually listen to anything, so I don't really see what the point is. So the headset's off. You can see my long face and my terrible haircut right now, but right there, you can see the title. You see what we're going to be talking about today, and it's an interesting subject because it's hard to determine who is actually going to be the best AR on Black Ops 4 and going into the season. But I mean, this is my opinion based on last year, based on how the game plays, and I mean, realistically, everyone's going to be an AR player next year. It seems that way at this moment in time. The SMGs could do with the buff. We all sort of know it. Maybe not the SOG, but the rest of them could. Because at this moment in time, it just seems as if the Maddox is probably the best sub on the game. So realistically, we are seeing most players run ARs, but this list is basically comprised of players who I expect to be the full AR, the typical slower player who's going to be using an ICR at all times, who's going to be the guy getting your rotations, going to be locking down lanes, playing a little bit slower, as said. And this is what this list is comprised of. To be honest with you, I try to keep it 1 AR per team. There's only one occasion where 2 players from the same team actually make it into this one, which is the only exception I made. But it's sort of the circumstances surrounding it will make sense. Trying to think of anything else before we go into it. I think we're ready to go. Here we go. Let's go into it. Number 10, I'm going to actually give to Wuskin. A couple of people would argue that he deserves to be higher based off what we've seen from Unilad last year. And I really did actually want to put him higher because of my EU bias. But realistically, I've looked at the rest of the list, and I think he slots in quite nicely here. As soon as Scraps left that Unilad team last year, Wuskin looked incredible. Absolutely incredible in that team. He had a bit of a drop-off at Champs, and I think if they continued that consistency into Champs and played well there, I would have probably had him up a couple of places here. But realistically, I mean, what I am going to lay out before I continue with the rest of this list, it is completely stacked. That's the thing. There's so many good players in this list. It was so difficult to actually make it and get it all ordered. But I think I've got where I'm happy for it to be at. There's a couple of places where I could definitely change some players. But realistically, I'm happy with where it's at now. But anyway, back to Wuskin. I think you realistically look at that reciprocity lineup and they have a really good opportunity to pull up some trees this year. I could see them doing really big things. Do I think they can win an event? I don't know, and that's probably why I've got him as low as 10th, although realistically, I could have probably put him 6th, 7th, 8th, something like that. It's very, very difficult to put these guys in a good order, but I think Wuskins is going to be my 10th best all-out AR player going into Black Ops 4. Let's move on to number 9, and yes, okay, I'm sorry, I do have the current Champs MVP in 9th, and that's going to be Assault, of course. I think they, honestly, at Champs, they were sensational. Assault himself was above and beyond the best player in that team throughout the whole event. And that's why I got the MVP trophy, of course. But that was the only thing that actually saved former AG, now Envy's year. And I don't know what my expectations are for that squad going into the Black Ops 4 season, of course. Hook is a super good addition. But I think Assault is going to need to carry on his form that we've seen at Champs if we want to see this MD roster actually win some championships. I would actually, if anything, put Reciprocity above them, and I have done in my top 10 video that I say I'll put somewhere here, probably forget. But I think Assault, as a standout player on his own, is a phenomenal player in this lineup, and I think he could get on most lineups actually in the league, to be honest with you. I think he's been very, very good at Champs, and we've seen him just continue to grow. I think I sort of put him in the same bracket as Wuskin. You know, these are guys who have not necessarily been around as long as some of the other players on this list, and they just seem to be keeping getting better and better. So I think realistically, Assault at 9th is a good position. Let's move on to number 8, and it's your number 1 respawn KD from last year. That is Methods. Just quickly, because I've just noticed I didn't say anything about this, but obviously replays could be the main AR in phase. Keep that in mind. Obviously nobody really knows because they changed so much last year, so I haven't got a clue who's main AR in phase at this point. But I would like to think it might be Methods of FaZe Clan. I think he's a great player and he's slotted into a very good side, but I just don't think that lineup as a whole is as strong as some of the other ones. FaZe had an up and down year last year. he is what they were missing, somebody who can slay, and he's typically not one of the slower ARs. He likes to keep it quite pacey at times, but I'm really looking forward to seeing how FaZe are actually going to do. I'm interested to see how he slots into this roster, but for me, I think he's the perfect pickup for that team. I don't really know why it took them so long to get him. I don't know if it was hot property or they were looking at somebody else, but for me, I think he's a really good fit for this team. I don't think it's as strong as that Rise team he was on last year, which is where he put up a lot of his numbers, and when he teamed with Sensor as well. But I think realistically, he's going to be solid. I don't think he is as strong as everybody else on this list. Everybody else I've got left, I should say. I really need to wake up. But I think he's a very, very strong player, and I do believe that he's going to cause some problems for other teams next year, and he's the perfect addition to that FaZe squad. Right. Number 7, you're going to hate me for this. Dashi. For me, okay, we've seen the potential. We've seen it. He's in an Optic Gaming team that is expected to be within the top 3-4 teams, expected to win events all year long. However, I'm still skeptical. I still am. His stats in World War II, you can't argue against them. They were phenomenal. But realistically, you see what team he was in. He was easily the best player in that team. If you've ever played in scrims, if you've got somebody who's above and beyond the best player, and you're playing, well, okay, yeah, he was playing against, good teams again. But at the same time, if you're the best player in that squad, you know you're going to pick up more kills than the majority of the other team. Like the other team, the rest of your team. And I think it was just he was made to look very, very good in a team of okay players. I just want to see how he transitions into that top 3, that top 4 team who can potentially win events every single time that they turn up. That is a big step to make. And for me, we haven't seen him be tested at that top level quite yet when it gets towards your semi-finals, your winners bracket finals, your grand finals. We haven't seen him in these situations. I don't think he placed top 12 all last year. So for me, we need to see how he does at the first event, the second event, before we start to make a good judgment on Dashi. Of course, the potential is there. Absolutely there. But for me, until he proves it, I can't even put him 6th, to be honest with you. I think that's where we're on to now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6th is accuracy. 3 times champion last year, Mr. Ice in his veins himself. I think, once again, he could have a very, very good year. We've seen him sort of come out of the woodwork a little bit at the beginning of last year, but I think Splice have managed to put together a good team that will suit the way he plays. He sort of has his 4 other players that he can sort of just let loose, and he can play his own game. He can play at the pace he wants to. I think, when I've been talking about previous people on this list and people I'm going to talk about further on in this list, I talk about how they pay a lot of these players that will play maybe a little bit too slow, but that could definitely work out in people's favor. I think when you going on a tangent here a little bit, but when you look towards control, if that is one of the game modes we're going to be playing, which I think we will be, then that's going to need you to have on defense that slow AR who's going to sit back. This game's going to need anchors. We've seen the spawns at this moment in time. They obviously do need fixing, but if we're playing hardpoint, anchors are going to be a big thing as per usual. We're going to need to see teams have that slower paced AR at times, and that is why I'm thinking slow isn't necessarily a bad thing right now, even though I probably put it as a bad thing somewhere on that list. But realistically, having a slow AR in this game is going to be very, very important. I think accuracy can do that job fantastically. For Spice, of course, last year, 3 times champion. Did trail off a little towards the end, outside of Season 2 finals, and at Champs, obviously, but this team surrounding him, as said, will complement him really well. I think him working with a player like Jerd, who's going to be on the other side of the map at all times, and working with Aqua as a more aggressive AR in his respect, I think it's going to be a good team, and I think his typical fairly slow pace is going to balance and counterbalance quite nicely how fast some of the other players are on this team. Moving into number 5, I really should put numbers next to these when I type this out. Clayster at number 5. I'm so excited for this E United lineup. You've actually got no idea. I think JCap joining this roster and Abizi in there with his potential is going to be really, really interesting. But one of the reasons I put Clay up there is because he has Arcites next to him as well, who I'm trying not to delve too much into flexes as ARs in this one, because I know obviously some of them are phenomenal with an AR in their hands, but I'm trying to keep this solely AR based. But one of the reasons I put Clay so highly is because of how strong Arcites is next to him as well, because also of his leadership. He brings so much more to the squad than realistically just his gunplay, which is also very, very good if you hadn't noticed over the past few years. He's just signed himself a long and probably expensive contract with EU United now, so we're going to see him here to stay, which means they're going to build teams around him, irrelevant if this team works or not. They want to keep Clay, and rightfully so. He's so popular, a very good player, slots in nicely at number 5. We're moving on to the top 4 now. Now, I'm going to put Rated in number 4. He'll probably be actually annoyed with me for putting him at number 4. I hope he isn't. But I think if Reece can remain consistent throughout the year, this Red Reserve team are going to win events. He is a sensational player on his day. He didn't have the best champs, and there was a couple of occasions where he didn't have the best maps and that sort of thing. But I think realistically, they're now surrounded by so much talent that he doesn't need to. That's the thing. If he performs consistently, though, this red team will cause problems. Again, he's one of these ARs who's typically trying to stay alive on those slower paced ones, which I feel as if you're going to need them in this game because of how fast paced it can be. You need somebody to maybe slow down the tempo when you got a lead, slow it down on control when you're defending. I think Rated is one of the best at doing that. I think realistically, though, you look at the rest of the team, the Bans Edition, 0 in there, fantastic flex in his own respect. He can have scraps sprinting at people with his sword, which he's probably used more than anybody on this planet at this point. I think he made 7 prestiges only using the sword. I appreciate the grind, mate. I really do. But Rated behind him, a very, very good player. I'm expecting big things from Red Reserve this year. They were the best team to not win an event last year, and I expect them to do so. I bloody hope they're going to win an event this year. I'm going to be there with me red flares in the crowd at Vegas. Anyway, moving into the top 3. Now I'm going to put Octane third. He's a little bit further down than some people maybe expect, although maybe not. I think third's probably a good placing for him. But he's been at the top of the game for years. In that LG lineup in the first half of World War II, he looked pretty good. They won Birmingham, and he was a big reason as to why. A very, very good player. And maybe was scapegoated a little bit alongside Methods in the reasons as to why that Optic team didn't work. But I think Octane, again, he's one of these slower players. So he's going to be the main AR in this team, in this 100 Thieves team. But you look at the rest of that team and you think, Jesus Christ, I mean, they're so strong. Again, I think he's going to be that slow player who can slow it down for 100 Thieves when they need to because they're full of fast-paced players for the most part. And I think he's going to be very, very solid. We've seen consistency from him of winning championships, being one of the best 3 hours on the game for the last 3 years. Easily. So I think Octane has a really good chance to perform very, very well this year. I'm excited to see how 100 Thieves do. Second place, Formal. Has to be. It has to be. Formal, for me, I argued about putting him in at number 1, but he didn't have a great year last year. He had a good towards the end of the year, but I think his first half definitely hurt him. He's an absolute maniac when he's on. He's one of the best players on the game. Best AR in the game in Black Ops 3 and IW in my opinion, and I'm expecting a return to form. As said, a fantastic team around him, and another one of the points, similar to what I made about Clayster, having Gunless next to him as a flex, and I just think they're going to have John flying at people, but Gunless next to him as a flex player is going to be phenomenal for Formal in this LG team. I would have liked to see them keep JCap, I've already said that, but I think Classic will be a decent enough addition in this squad as well, but Formal, I think is going to be, this LG team is going to be so aggressive, so aggressive. I'm really excited to see how they play. Now, as said, I did have one occasion where 2 players from one team made it in this top 10, and that number 1 spot goes to Slasher of 100 Thieves, and I know I already have Octane in here. I know we're talking about that sole AR player, but this seems as if it's going to be a heavy AR-based game. So having Slasher and Octane in their team, probably going to be a masterstroke, to be honest with you, because of how strong the ARs currently are. Slasher has been the best AR in the game last year. Maybe not the year before, but this guy has been at the top for so long now. I feel like he's one of the greatest of all-time COD players at this point. We've seen how good he was on that Rise squad last year. For me, the second best player in World War II was Slasher. The only other guy is actually on his team. I think Kenny was the best. So I think if you put him and Octane in there with ICRs, how scary is it going to be trying to run into like a bomb site where there is long sight lines when you've got Slasher and Octane on the other team? I think Slasher, though, I put him at my number 1 spot for good reason. He was hellishly good last year, the best AR player last year. I think he'll continue it on. He's got Octane next to him. Look at the rest of the squad as well. An absolutely insane 100 Thieves. I mean, look at 100 Thieves team. It's so strong. Having Slasher and Octane in there is the reason that they're first and third. Formal does break them in the middle at second, but I'm going to end it there. Let's just go through the list one more time. I said I tried to keep it to 1 AR per team, but it was very difficult considering Slasher and Octane were on the same team. Wuskin at number 10, Assault at number 9, Methods at number 8, Dashi at number 7, Accuracy at number 6, Clayster at number 5, Rated at number 4, Octane at number 3, Formal second, Slasher my number 1 best AR pick for Black Ops 4 going into the season. Guys, please leave your opinions below. This was really difficult, I'll be honest with you. I definitely had Slasher and Formal number 1 and 2. But outside of that, I found it really difficult to actually piece together the top 10 because I think realistically, you could argue Dashi could be higher, you could argue Accuracy could be higher, you could argue Assault could be higher, Wuskin could be in the mix. The thing is that these guys all have very good teams around them. Outside of Slasher and Formal, it was a very hard list to put together. As said, give your opinions below of what you think and where you think these teams will place in Vegas, where you think these players will place KD-wise, that sort of thing, because I think all these players have the potential to win championships, guys. Thank you very, very much for watching. Please leave a like on the video. A subscription would be awesome as well if you could, and we will see you for another video tomorrow.